A book is really a business card. It is a low-cost introductory mentorship. If you're a fan of Justin's work, buy his book, and that's like hiring him to coach you.
One of my challenges with collecting data, like granular data, is that I don't do anything with it. Like I get the data and then it's like, oh, that's interesting. And then I like, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Creator Wizard Podcast. I'm here with my good friend Casey, and we are back to talk about the book. What's going on, Casey?
Hey, Justin. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, man. We are coming down to it. In terms of the deadline, I just had a conversation with my publisher who my date to deliver the manuscript to them is in 7 days from date of recording. And so I'm starting to feel it. I'm starting to feel a little bit of pressure. I want to share one quick anecdote with you that I think you'll find funny. Hold on.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, so I printed out the manuscript. Did I tell you I did this?
I saw a picture.
Okay, so I printed out the manuscript. This is the first time I've ever done this, Casey. Okay, and I have probably gone over this manuscript 100 times, more than 100 times, like on the screen, right? And I was flying out to a conference, and I was like, you know what? Let me just print this thing out, and maybe in like a different format, something will happen, right? Where I'll like have some insights. I'm gonna be on the plane, right? And so I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. I was like, okay, I'm just going to go through this. And I started dog-earing the pages that had notes on it. And I just stopped dog-earing them because I was dog-earing every single page that I had literally notes on. And so I spent all of the weekend going through and just like transferring all the edits to the actual manuscript. And so, man, it's funny how that happens, that like, it's just, you read it in a different format. One other thing I heard to do is like, now I'm going to read it aloud because someone said I was reading the audiobook and it was like, oh, I was like, wow, I don't want to say that. Right. And so, man, I feel like I should have done this like weeks ago, but now now I got to do it, you know?
Well, I mean, there's something to be said about crunch time. I don't know what kind of, student you were in school, but I was very much the person who, if the deadline was midnight, I was running to my professor's office to like put it in the little slot in his door at 11:55 because like
Right.
it's still on time, right? Like it's still on
Right.
time. Or you talk about like dog earing, like you get your textbook and you sit down to study and you got your highlighter and your pen and you're just highlighting the whole page because you're like, this
Right.
is probably all going to be on the test.
Yeah, man. So I think that's what it is. I also, one of the things I wanted to talk about today, because you and I have been working pretty closely together recently to try to be as thoughtful as possible about how we are encouraging people to enter into my ecosystem beyond just reading the book, right? And so specifically, we're talking about bonuses that we can offer people to join our email list, but also plugging other services or other ways in which we can support people, namely the course and coaching. And so I thought we would just hit record on this. We were planning on doing a Zoom call, but I was like, no, we should record this. This is good. This is content. Feed the content machine. Yeah. Make sure we'll add a sound effect like that. Like, and so should we just dive into it? Like you have a bunch of notes. Like I'll share my screen. We'll look at the manuscript. At the very end of the introduction of our book, we have this I talked about my sponsorship wheel, which is like my 8-step methodology to help creators land consistent, well-paying sponsorships. And so I have this note here. Bonus, I've turned my sponsorship wheel into a sweet template to help you take action over the following chapters. My sponsorship wheel tracker will help you track your pitches to brands and companies, remember when to follow up with built-in formulas, manage your partnerships once you land the deals, download it for free here, and then we have a URL. And so first question here, I wanted to get your take on this is like, should all the URLs be sponsormagnet.com/bonus? Or should we have separate URLs? Like right now we have it tentatively as like sponsormagnet.com/tracker. And then we have like either unique landing pages for each of the bonuses, or they literally just redirect to sponsormagnet.com/bonus. And so what are your thoughts on like the best way to approach this?
Like any good coach or personal trainer, the answer is it depends. And so there's benefits. It's about evaluating the different benefits and what is the ultimate goal and what actually matters to you. So I have a background in data science, and one of the rules or principles is Are you measuring something because it's important, or do you think it's important just because it's measured? And so, you could take that principle and extrapolate that into different, business metrics when it or email marketing when it comes to, traffic and open rates and click rates and all of this stuff. And you can go down the rabbit hole of customization and segmentation, and you actually go too far to where you're trying to move all these tiny dials that have infinitesimal impacts on profitability or on efficiency or on impact, whatever it might be, and you're ignoring a huge lever that could create 10x growth or something like that. And so in this situation, in thinking about, okay, what do we want the links to be? We're trying to balance your goals as the author and the reader's experience. And
Okay.
so one thought is, if the link is we're talking about a specific resource each time, but if the link is the same and it's taking a reader to the exact same place every time, um, once they opt in, like, they're not going to necessarily go back to that page. And if we're using the same link, the what you can't do is figure out, okay, which chapter or what lead magnet is of what was included in the book is actually driving the most conversions. Because you could just say, at the end of the chapter, you could have the exact same call to action at the end of it, which, excuse me, to get your bonuses at sponsormagnet.com/bonuses. Like, and it could just be the same at the end of every chapter, but you have no idea of knowing, did that chapter or the specific lead magnet you talked about drive that traffic, which could be important information for you as the author and, founder of Creator Wizard and, the Brand Deal Wizard program, to know where people are coming from and what's most valuable to them, because then that could determine the creation of a new program, the next version of Brand Deal Wizard, what, additional content that you're creating to that then supplements the book, if you decide to do another book, things like that. And so, but then from a reader perspective, it's like, okay, if I'm reading the book and I'm like, oh, I want this lead magnet, and if I'm reading on a tablet, I can go right to it, or if I'm reading a physical copy of the book, I can take up my phone and be like, all right, I'm going to go in there and get this, and then I go to opt in for, I'm a couple chapters later, I'm like, ooh, I want to make sure I get this lead magnet also. Do I know as the reader that I'm just getting the same thing?
Yeah.
We definitely don't like. We want to balance those things, because what we don't want to do is make the reader individually opt
Yeah.
in for each lead
Exactly.
magnet. Now,
Right. Right.
I think the best of both worlds is unique links that redirect, because then the unique links give you the ability to track what chapters or what lead magnets are driving the most traffic. All the traffic ends up on the exact same page. You're then tracking the conversion rate of traffic on that page, and on that page, you could have the list of bonuses. A little welcome video from you, or a little statement, be like, hey, thanks so much for opting in. When you enter your email, you're getting all of these bonuses from the entire book. And then
You don't
they
need to
opt
like
in.
re-opt back in. Like, you just clarify on the page, like,
So
that they
I would
don't need to
clarify,
opt.
I wouldn't do it on the page, because on the page we want it to be as concise and clear as possible,
Okay.
because all you want is that email address.
Right.
That's the
Right.
most you can clarify on the confirmation email that they get, or the
Got
welcome email that
it.
they
Got
get.
it.
Be like,
Okay.
hey, thanks so much for opting in. I'm gonna, here's the link to go get all of your stuff. By the way, you don't need to to opt in every single time. If you've opted in once, you're getting everything. And so that's kind of where I think is a happy medium, because then you're able to capture traffic data and find out where the source of the opt-in is coming from, if it came from a tracker or the survey or a checklist or a template or whatever. And then, you can gather that data and decide what to do with it at a later point. But then from a reader's perspective, it's streamlined. I don't have to opt in for each one individually. And there's also clarity in that when I've opted in for the tracker, you are telling me in that process that I'm getting everything, that I don't need to go back. Because then the other thing is, you actually want people to finish your book. I went to just grab a
Right.
book. like you actually want people to finish your book. And so if, they opt in chapter 2, you don't want them to keep going back and
Right.
interrupting
Totally.
their reading
Annoying them.
experience.
Yeah.
You either want them to, if there's an action step at the end of the chapter that's, not necessarily like that isn't, hey, go download this thing. It's all right, here's your
Mm-hmm.
action step. You either want them to take that action step or you want them to read the next chapter and then the next chapter
Mm-hmm.
and then the next chapter. And so that's what I recommend. Questions or thoughts around that?
Okay. Okay. Decision made. Let's do that. Sounds good.
All right. Aye.
Question though. If I look at this list that you so kindly curated or created. Okay, two concerns or hesitations is that like what I don't want to be like is like add a checklist or add a resource just to add one because a chapter doesn't have one. And like another chapter does. And just like, I just don't want to be annoying. Like, I'm just be like, I really want people to join the newsletter, the email list, of course. But at the same time, I don't want it to be like a shtick. Like, okay, like, here's the bonus, every single chat, every little section. So like, I don't know. I just look at this and I feel like, is this too much? Is it maybe not? Like it's 45,000 words. So maybe it's not like what is it like, something like 20 links or 15 links. Maybe that's not that much. I don't know. Help me here. Real quickly, remember your first podcast episode, your first YouTube video, or your first blog post? Think back to how it felt to hit publish on that early piece of content. Now, look at how far you've come. Your content has transformed, and so have you. But has your email marketing platform kept up? Do you even have one? Enter this episode's sponsor, Kit, which is the email marketing service designed specifically for creators like you and for me because I use it and I love it. Whether you're crafting newsletters, managing subscriptions, or sending updates, Kit grows with you. With easy integration for your blogs, podcasts, YouTube channels, and e-commerce stores, Kit ensures your email marketing works as hard as you do. You probably know that when you press publish on platforms like YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, you're kind of at the mercy of the algorithm for your content's reach, right? And I'm gonna prove it to you. I'm gonna show you the real reach of one of my recent Instagram posts. So I have about 11,600 followers roughly. And my last reel, let me show you this. My last reel got 386 views, reach of 322. So quick math here, 2%. You know what my average open rate is on my emails that I send out through Kit? Around 40 to 45%. So which one do you want to have? 2%, 45%. 2%, 45%. I'll let you be the judge. So take control with Kit. Here you can own your audience relationships directly. No middlemen, no unpredictable algorithm changes, just a direct line to your followers. Kit isn't just another tool. It is a partner in your creative journey. So if you want to create with freedom, automate with ease, and engage your audience like never before, build a platform you own. Start with Kit today at kit.com. That's KIT.com, or you can click the link down below. All right, let's get back to it.
I think that's a valid concern, and I really appreciate that. And I think your readers will appreciate that as well, because you can definitely go too far where there's, a new download or a new resource, every other page. And it's just like, okay, I get it. I need to go opt in to get the bonuses. And so I think if, some of these chapters, like chapter 2, for example, has the most potential lead magnets in it. And so what we could do is have at the end of the chapter just a short, you could still have the same number of lead magnets, but then at the end of the chapter there's a summary call to action that says, hey, if you want for chapter 2 these 4 bonuses, go to sponsormagnet.com/negotiate, because then we know that the chapter 2 bonuses are what drove that conversion. That's a bit of a compromise, because then you don't know specifically which one they opted in for, but you do know it was the content in chapter 2 that drove people to join the list.
One of my challenges with collecting data like this, like granular data, is that I don't do anything with it. That's my problem, is like I get the data and then it's like, oh, that's interesting. And then I like don't make any decisions with the data, or like I hear what you're saying, that like this is great data to have and I could run paid ads with it. And it's just like, maybe this is just the reality of being a small business and a small team, is like you can't do everything, every project that you want to do. And so it's like I'm worried. Part of me is like worried, like, are we over engineering this? I don't know.
I think that's a fair question, and it takes it back to my point of like, are we measuring it because we actually think it's important, or do we think it's important just because it's being measured? And
Mm,
so, to your point, I think I would counter that this book has the potential to be a pillar in your business, in the same way that your show
let's
is and
go.
that
Let's
Brand Deal
go.
Wizard is. The
Let's
book is
go.
going to be a pillar in your business. And so it's in your best interest to
Yeah.
gather some data. We don't have to go super granular where we're individually where maybe we don't have an individual redirect link for every single possible bonus or lead magnet. Maybe it's just one at the end of each chapter. What if we get, we're a year down the road and you find out that chapter 7 drove the majority of all of the conversions to join your
Mm,
email list. That's
mm.
going to inform something. It might
Yes.
inform
Yeah.
content, like on the podcast or on your social media. It might inform some type of offer. It might cause you to expand that module
Mm-hmm.
within Brand Deal Wizard, or to to lean into that when it comes to like the coaching level, the guild, or offer a webinar or a public workshop, to as a lower tier introductory offer to your larger platform. So I think gathering some data is in your best interest.
So I had an idea, and then I quickly decided against it. So I made the decision. So I
Okay.
thought, oh, maybe we should just do, for all the pitch resources, it's like sponsormagnet.com/pitch.
Hmm.
And then you get all the things there, and then sponsormagnet.com/negotiate, and you get all the negotiation resources. But then I went and I looked at that, and I was like, okay, if this said sponsormagnet.com/pitch, like that wouldn't feel, or that wouldn't get me as excited as like a reader. Like I want this thing, I want the tracker.
So this mention right here in the manuscript, we would take that and move it to the end of the chapter. So then someone's reading, they get through the whole chapter. So that is at the end of the chapter actually, because step 1
Yeah, this is the end of the
is
introduction.
pitch. So like the tracker resource, that's fine. We could even,
We could keep that.
you could keep that because I think that's only one of 2 lead magnets in the beginning section.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas within the pitch chapter, all of the any of the lead magnets from the chapter, the call out could be at the end because as they're reading, they're like, "Oh, this is great. Oh, I wish there was a thing for this." And then they get to the end of the chapter, and it's like, "Hey, actually, I have a email to this is the email tools. This is the rope template. You can get these things that we just talked about that I know you want to have. Just go to this link, and it's just sponsormagnet.com/pitch."
So you think that sounds like a good approach?
I do, because the
Okay.
other thing that I was kind of wrestling with that I wanted to talk with you about is because we were discussing where to put lead magnet or bonuses, like where to put bonuses and where to put calls to action to check out the course. And
Yeah.
so a thought we had in our discussions was, in within the chapter is where the bonuses would be mentioned, like the tracker or a checklist or the template. And then at the end of the chapter could be, hey, if you want to, if you're ready to take this to the next level, you can go ahead, like you can just go ahead and join the Brand Deal Wizard course. You're going to get all of this, you'll get everything in this book and more, by joining the program. Here's, a special discount code for readers. So like maybe anyone who has purchased the book can use, you know, I won't mention a coupon code now, but they could use a code. Or have it, or it's a special link that redirects or whatever. I'm kind of going back and forth on that idea because part of me because the idea is like you want someone to read the book and you want them to get the bonuses. A driving goal for you from this book is to get those email addresses because once you have the email addresses, you can start delivering content to them and send them a campaign to join Brand Deal Wizard. You're going to have a whole welcome sequence related to when people opt in to get their book bonus. So like the purpose of the book and all those lead magnets is to get the email address, and then the big call to action at the end is to join Brand Deal Wizard or
Mm-hmm.
to get coaching through the guild. I am leaning in that direction and taking out the course calls to action from the bulk of the book
Okay.
because the goal of each chapter is to get their email address and to get them to read the next chapter. That's really already two calls to action. And as soon as they opt in through their email, through this whole separate channel, you can start pitching Brand Deal Wizard to them in an authentic, value added way like you do. And that will not interrupt their experience of reading the book and getting value from it.
Very compelling argument. Decision made. Sounds good.
All right. Awesome.
Actually, one question. The reason that I was doing that was, I mean, it was relevant to the section I was describing it, but also, I just, in my mind, I was thought, well, a lot of people don't finish books. And so like, I want them to know that I have other ways I can support them. Like someone might pick up the book, read like one chapter or two chapters and be like, this guy seems like he knows what he's talking about. Let me just take the course. I don't want to finish this book. Let me just like go, or hire him for coaching or something. Like, I don't know. I've done that before where I was just like, this person seems like the expert. Let me just like go pay them like to like help me with this. I don't know. That's just like my mentality that like, I wanted people to like know, you know, that I have other ways that I could give them personalized support with coaching with folks on my team. Is that a flawed logic, or I could still accomplish that if I got their email, basically is what you're saying?
Yes. So you could still accomplish that by getting their email and providing that value through the book bonuses and making sure that that process is as easy and streamlined as possible. You and I have, gone through and reviewed other authors' book pages and talked about best practices there, which we might get into on this episode or a future episode. You make a good point in that, like, okay, if someone just picks up the book and they get two chapters in and they're like, this guy's just great, can I just talk to him? Like, I just want to talk to him. Now, are they just going to go, like, will they just go to your Twitter profile, or will they just follow on YouTube, or will they just go to your website? Because like, all right, I'm just going to go to creatorwizard.com, or I'm just going to go to sponsoredmagnet.com, and then that is going to lead them down all those places. Now, what I don't think we should do is have a call to action for the course in every chapter.
No,
but,
yeah.
But where it's super relevant, because I think there's only, if I look at our sheet here, I think there's only like two, I think, until before, like in the first, not until chapter 8. Like you get to chapter 8 and there's like case study templates that you mention. There's a mention in chapter 2 and there's a mention in chapter 3. Like as long as it's organic and it's like, hey, I couldn't include this as a book bonus because it's too valuable. Like what you're not actually saying that, but what you're communicating to them is like, this resource that I have created for you is so valuable. I can't afford to to just give it away, but but it is there and you can get it right here. Like, because then they're like, well, hey, I want something like this. And you're like, oh, it's a secret. I'm not going to tell you.
Well, I mean, that's the if I had to think of one, probably the most important like reason to plug the course in chapter 2 is like, I go through this really detailed section about formulas for calculating your pricing. Yeah. And I was like, I literally give you the formulas. I'm like, here's exactly how you do it. And then I'm like at the end and like, by the way, I have a calculator if you don't want to like do this yourself, like in the program, this type of idea. So that was the only kind of main reason that I did that. And so, but like, I see your point. I think, I think maybe we just remove that or keep it. I don't know. What are we saying?
I think keep it as long as as long as it's organic and it's not every single chapter, because again, we want people to finish the book and put it into practice for themselves. And you want to get their email address because you want to keep delivering them value beyond their reading experience. And hope, ideally get them into Brand Deal Wizard because you want to help them even more. Like this is just an introductory. A book is really a business card. It is a low cost introductory, mentorship that people like can read on their own time. It's an asynchronous mentorship. Like if you're a fan of Justin's work, buy his book, and that's like hiring him to coach you. And it's only going to cost you, $20, $25, whatever. Like if you actually wanted to buy an hour of Justin's time to coach you, or buy an hour of my time to coach you, it would cost you a lot more than $25. All the books on my shelf, like those people are my mentors. I haven't talked to to 95% of them. But, like they're my mentors because they put all of this value and knowledge and wisdom and insight and practicality into a book. I bought it, I read it, and then it's like, all right, putting it into practice. And so for me, I think of your book as a way, if you were a personal trainer, your book is like, here's a program. Like I wrote this program, you can buy it, like, and you could go work out and you could get strong and get in shape. Or if you wanted to hire me as your personal trainer or like come to my gym and work out with me, that's Brand Deal Wizard. That's the guild. It's actually the community, the application, the accountability that helps someone translate, a book into information into application.
Let me ask you a question. I'm this is like an idea that is like quite nascent in terms of where the business is headed. And as I was writing, because I recently added this section towards the end called like a next steps type section. And I hadn't done this previously, but I included a brief overview of the course and the coaching, the course and the guild, basically. And I've been thinking that like long term, my business, the highest leverage thing that we can support people with is the coaching. It's the ongoing coaching where we can help them anytime a deal comes into their inbox or they want to pitch a brand, like we are on speed dial for them twice a week, essentially asynchronously, right? And one thing I've been thinking about is like, okay, this book feels permanent, right? I'm going to like put this thing out into the universe. And if we make the decision in like 6 months or a year or something that like the coaching is really the main offer, am I making a mistake by like talking explicitly about the course, given that like one idea we've had is like if you buy an annual if you sign up annually for the coaching, maybe you get access to the course like as part of that because it's like an incentive. So like you learn all the baseline knowledge and then we can support you in the coaching. And so we haven't pulled the trigger on that yet, but like how do I make this decision of like what to include in the book, knowing that our business model or the focus of our signature offer might change in the future?
That's a great question. The brilliant thing is that a book is not permanent.
Mm.
Because ebooks can be updated anytime
Right,
you
I
want.
guess. That's true,
And
I
so like if
guess.
you get
Okay.
if you get 6 months, a year, 3 years down the road, and you're like, you know what, Brand Deal Wizard isn't, is going to, we're not really doing that anymore. Or maybe it just becomes an entirely self-paced, asynchronous curriculum or course experience where there's no community, there's no calls, like it's just
That's what it is
here's
now. So
okay,
we're doing the very last live cohort,
right, that's right.
and then after that, it's fully on demand.
The principles of what you're teaching in Sponsor Magnet are not going to change. They might evolve over time as you grow in your business, as you work with more and more students, as you do more coaching. But those principles and the steps, like it still works. It's still going to work. Like it might evolve and stuff. You might need to do a second edition. You might do a second edition with an additional 2 steps, or a completely rehashed sponsorship wheel or something. With a hybrid publishing situation like you have, doing updates like that are very easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what about all the people who actually, bought the physical book, and they don't get the second edition? Well, if they opted into all your bonuses, you have their email address. You're like, hey, thanks so much for buying the book. I'm doing a second edition. Here's a free version of the ebook. If you want to get a print edition, go here and you can do that. And
Right.
so I would not hesitate. I like having this, the course and the coaching plug in the book because it gives them more detail. Because if someone gets
Yeah.
all the way here to the end and they haven't opted into a lead magnet yet, and started getting, your relevant, authentic value add through that through that onboarding sequence, and they get all the way to the end, having this here might be what like pushes them over. Be like, you know what? I didn't go, they haven't even clicked on your website at all. If they've read through the entire, here's the other thing. It's like, who really is going to get all the way to the end of this book and read it cover to cover and not check you out on Twitter or check you out on Instagram, or check out the Creator Wizard website, or the sponsor, or just go to sponsormagnet.com. Like, I would think that would be very unlikely. And so having this here, I think is valuable, regardless of what pivots you might make in the future. And if you do make a drastic pivot, that's okay. Years down the road, they try to go to branddealwizard.com or something, and it's, you would have that link redirected somewhere else where it's like, oh, hey, thanks for trying to check out Brand Deal Wizard. We don't actually do that anymore.
Mm,
Or we do, but it is not supported, and you can just go here and have it, or whatever you decide to do.
mm-hmm.
Um, there's lots of options.
Okay. How, okay, what about at the very beginning of the book? We talked briefly about having some sort of QR code or offer, like right up front, like, hey, there's a bunch of bonuses that are supplements to this book. If you want it, go here, grab it. Like, is that something we should add?
I'm thinking multiple things at the same time here. So one is like, what if someone picks up the book? They're at Barnes and Noble. They see your book. They're like, "What's sponsor magnet? What's this?" They open it up and they see the QR code. Oh, free stuff. And they scan it and they just get your bonuses and they don't buy the book. Okay, so what? Actually, because now you have their email address and now you're pitching them Brand Deal Wizard and now they're in your ecosystem and introduced to all of your awesome content. Great. They got the bonuses without paying $25 for the book or whatever the book is going to be. Oh well.
Yeah, no, I don't care if people get the bonuses, honestly.
you
Like,
know,
even if they don't, yeah,
and
like I'm assuming people are going to share sponsormagnet.com/bonus. Like, it's going to be out there. Like, it's not,
yeah.
and that's
And I think
fine.
that's something important for anyone watching this or listening to this who, is trying to, they're like, oh, I have to make sure, that like only people who have verified that they've, purchased the book can get access to the bonuses because the bonuses are so valuable. It's like you just said, the link is going to get out there. It's going to end up on Twitter or on Reddit or on some website or whatever. And it's like, at the end of the day, if you've set it up right, you've got that person's email address. And if they don't buy from you, they weren't going to buy from you anyway. So
Yeah.
who cares? I like the idea of having a soft but direct call to action at the front where it's like, hey, thanks, like maybe a little, very much, you talked earlier about reading your book out loud, like very much a Justin message where it's like, hey, thanks so much for checking out the book. I think you're awesome just for picking it off the shelf. Whether you bought this and you're reading it at home or on the train, or you just want some free stuff and you're going to put this back on the shelf, go to this link or just scan this QR code. I want to give you some free resources. Something in that tone that's
Mm-hmm.
definitely in your voice.
Okay.
Because something like that, that's going to get people's attention, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because like if I picked up a book, and it's like, oh, because everyone has their little intro and their oh, this book is dedicated to so and so, and the introduction, which I never used to read the introductions, and now I always do.
Mm-hmm.
But then like on the first page of it was like, hey, like to get my attention, like, hey, you looking at this book, I got some free stuff for you. I'm going to talk about it. Like, I'm going to mention it in the rest of this book, but you can get them right now, and you can just put this book back on the shelf. Now, I don't know how your publishers would feel about that.
Right. Okay. I love that idea. Format of the bonuses. There's a
Mhm.
lot of them here. I have a lot of them already that you had identified ones that I like didn't have yet, but like, could potentially make ones for. Do I create some sort of like Notion organizer that's like the repository that people get access to, or like, what's the best format to deliver the bonuses in your mind?
As much as I am a fan of Notion, I would think something simple like a Google folder and or in the onboarding sequence, just like linking to a zip file to where it's just like, hey, you download the zip file, you get all of the things. Instead of like, all right, download this one, download this one, download this one. Like it's just like it's either I like the idea of a Google folder because then it's like, here you
Mm-hmm.
go. Like it's all right here.
Mm-hmm.
And the files are all locked down. Like someone would need to like create a copy of the folder on their own Google Drive and then be able to like edit stuff. Because like things like, not that there's a calculator, but like the templates and other things they need to be able to manipulate them themselves. And so I like the idea of a Google folder because it's more universal. Because not everyone, I mean, Notion's really great, and and maybe we're organizing these in Notion, and so I think like everything we organize in Notion, and then once we're like, all right, this is all like this is the final, like the final, actually final versions of whatever these bonuses are, then we move them into a Google folder.
Sounds good. The tracker template is it is a Notion template. So that's the only one
Mm,
that would actually need to be, need to be some instruction around like how to use it and all that. And we have that. But yeah, Google Drive sounds good. Okay, TBD means that we don't have one for it yet, but you think we should?
yes, so these were recommendations where going through the manuscript, points where, as a reader, I'm like, ooh, like this would potentially be a good resource.
Mm-hmm.
Or this would be, something that I would want to like have access to manipulate.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are just like suggested possible book bonuses
Okay.
for us to create. Um, I know some of these items are like the Pinot method framework there as an example is a resource that's already in Brandio Wizard, and
Mm-hmm.
so there's already, let's see, for analyze, the reason why for analyze in particular, that chapter, there is a course call out, which is fine because again, as long as it's really like organic and we're not just hammering people throughout the book to just get the course, get the course, like I got it, you have a program, cool. Like as long as it's organic, like that's totally fine. But chapter 8 didn't have a bonus. It didn't have a lead magnet, and that seemed at the time that seems like a kind of low hanging fruit type of thing to include. But if you feel like it's a core element of Brandio Wizard that should still be gated, um, that's I understand.
Good idea. Yeah. So we should have a lead magnet for every chapter. Like,
Mhm.
and yeah, that seems to make sense.
And it like it shouldn't be forced, to your comment earlier.
Right.
Like we don't want to force it, but at the same time it also doesn't have to be super complicated. Like number chapter 3 where I suggested a contract checklist. Like I'm talking like a very simple PDF or even just like an image with just
Yeah.
a checklist.
I
Like
have that
just a,
already.
all
Yeah.
right,
So
awesome.
thinking about this more, I think it's going to make me feel better that it's not so in your face when all of the bonuses per chapter can be found at like sponsorbragnac.com/pitch or whatever. Like that feels good. I'm feeling good, dude. This is coming
Awesome.
together. Also, I think I mentioned, or maybe I didn't mention, that we're going to be having a bunch of visuals
Hmm.
throughout the book. Did I tell you this? I don't remember if I did. You probably saw some of the comments and throughout the thing, but like it's going to be somewhere around 60 visuals that will kind of supplement the concept per section. I'm excited because I think that that'll give another dimension to the book to kind of hammer home the concept. All right, dude, I think let's wrap it up. This was amazing. Thank you again. We'll drop Casey's info in the show notes in the description. As always, man, until next time, appreciate you.